Welcome to an especially rocking edition of Money Rocks. Tonight, I'm honored to be joined by one of the major forces in the American political scene. Former governor and Republican vice presidential candidate Sarah Palin has a unique perspective on how our tax dollars are being used. So let's get right to it. Welcome, Governor Palin. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Eric. I'm glad you had me.
All right, listen, this came out today. We found out today that in $13 trillion in debt, there was a day last week. It was the third most expensive day in American history. We spent $166 billion in one single day. Turns out the number 1, 2, and 3 days have been under Mr. Obama's presidency. Can we afford these policies?
No, we can't afford these policies. We are certainly on the road towards insolvency, and this is a scary time for our country. It's a scary time for our kids and our grandkids, knowing that we are in this practice of deficit spending and incurring this huge debt. We're going to hand them the bill. It's unfair. It's immoral. We can't afford it. It's like Cavuto says, man, we are in a hole. What these guys need to do, what our president needs to do is drop the shovel, back away, get away from the hole, and quit perpetuating the problem and digging us deeper in.
Governor, you can't see it, but we have the U.S. debt clock spinning behind us, $13 trillion. We're going to keep that up there throughout the whole segment, just so you know, for background. All right, so today we heard one of the, Lanny Davis, a gentleman who used to work at the Clinton White House, suggested a 1% transaction tax on every single thing we transact, whether it's purchase, a service, a good, whatever. Is this the way to solve the debt crisis?
See how screwed up these guys are? That is the screwiest idea yet, is to add another tax on top of what businesses are already burdened by from the federal government and by some of our state governments too. No, these guys need to go the complete opposite route that they're going today, and that is cut taxes and cut government spending and incentivize the job creators to get out there and start hiring more people and start producing again in this country. Quit outsourcing our opportunities and our services and our projects and products. Just do the opposite of what they're thinking of doing now, including increasing a tax.
Now, Governor, we were promised no new taxes for the middle class. It was anyone above $250,000 was going to bear the brunt of any new spending and any new taxes. Anyone below was going to not see a new tax. That number came down to 200. When this comes home to roost, will everyone participate in a tax increase?
Yeah, remember during the campaign, John McCain tried to get people to pay attention to what Obama was saying, and Joe Biden and others as candidates. They were, they were all over the place, flip-flopping around on that salary cap. First, it was $250. Nobody making more than that would, less than that would see an increase, and then $200,000. And we were warning people that if they couldn't get their stuff together as candidates, then heaven forbid, once they were the administrators, their agenda was going to be really tough to trust. And that wasn't the only broken promise, of course, in the Obama campaign. He hasn't worked in a bipartisan manner at all. He hasn't embraced pro-private sector, pro-business, pro-entrepreneurial spirit values or principles at all. So it doesn't surprise me that now nobody knows what that salary cap will be when we talk about a family making a certain level of income and if their taxes will be increased or not. Yep, everybody's going to be affected because job creators are going to see tax increases. Job creators, then, the employees are going to pass that tax increase on to the consumers. Everybody's going to be affected by this. And Eric, what this is all about is more uncertainty coming from the feds. Business owners need the certainty. Business is risky enough as it is. They don't need, on top of already the burden and kind of the crapshoot that they have to play every day in terms of deciding where to invest their monies. They don't need additional uncertainty coming down from the feds. And the Obama administration is all about uncertainty. Nobody knows if they're coming or going when it comes to business.
Governor, you make a great point. Small businesses have held back hiring new employees because they weren't sure where the economy was going, what their tax structure was going to look like, health care, cap and trade. We're going to talk about some of those things. But recently we had some of the heads of business, even big business, even some people on the Obama Economic Advisory Board saying Mr. Obama is against big business and big business is against Mr. Obama if small businesses don't get it and big businesses don't get it. When is the Obama administration going to get it?
Very, very tough to answer that one, Eric, because everything indicates that the Obama administration doesn't get it. They don't understand the certainty, the budgeting forecasts and foresight that a business needs in order to reinvest and to ultimately be able to hire more people and produce more goods for the rest of America to consume. President Obama never ran a business, I don't suppose. I don't think he's ever had to make payroll. I don't think he's ever had to craft his own budget and make sure that he's living within his means in running a business. I think a little bit of that personal experience would have helped him be able to appoint the right people to make the decisions that are needed, that are more reflective of that entrepreneurial spirit that helped build this great country that we still live in and that we're going to take back.
All right, Governor, I want to switch gears a little bit here. Let's talk about it's day 80 and oil continues to flow in the Gulf. Originally where BP told us it was 1,000 barrels a day, it got to 25. Now it could be up to 40,000 barrels or 2 million gallons. Issue number one, has the Obama administration done everything they could have and should have done to cap this well or to clean up this spill?
Such a tragedy there going on in the Gulf, and such a tragedy, too, the reaction of the federal government to what BP has engaged in. What BP has engaged in, despite having this astronomical liability exposure, they have been able to define the facts and tell the people some things that now we're finding out weren't entirely true regarding the flow of oil into our environment. That's number one, a tragedy that those numbers weren't verified right off the bat. How could they have been verified, though? The president refused to even meet with the board of directors and the CEO of BP for, how many weeks and weeks on end. He didn't even bother to verify what it was that he was being told. That was a tragedy right there, with the allowance that this industry player had to define facts.
Let's remind our viewers what went on. There were days, if not weeks, where the Obama administration was saying, hey, it's BP's spill. It's their problem. We'll take care. It's not our problem right now. They're going to take care of it, until they realized the extent and magnitude of this tragic accident.
Right, which, Eric, was irresponsible of our federal government. This tragic accident, this spill, happened in federal waters. It is the jurisdiction, the responsibility of the federal government. If that were to happen in my state, in Alaska, when I was governor, we set up a petroleum systems integrity office to make sure that BP specifically, because we had problems with some of their lax preventative measures that they were being dinged on, we wanted to make sure that they were maintaining their infrastructure and that they were doing everything safely and ethically and responsibly. I sure wouldn't have gotten away with not verifying what it was that they were telling me and let it go on for weeks and weeks on end, as our administration in the White House has allowed.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, Governor. Let's say it's 2012, this hadn't happened yet, and there is a spill, an accident, a disaster that to the magnitude of this BP Deepwater Horizon. President Palin, what would she do?
Well, we're never going to let this happen again, because we are going to enforce the laws that we have on the books. It's not necessarily creating new laws and more regulations. It's enforcing the ones that we already have on the books. And it's also a matter of not allowing the environmentalists, the extremists, to shoo us off safer areas that need to be drilled so that we can extract our own domestic resource and then be less reliant on foreign sources of energy. We can be drilling right now in Anwar at the stroke of a pen. This administration and this Congress can allow Anwar to be tapped and extract in the billions of barrels of oil and the hundreds of trillions of cubic feet of clean natural gas that are waiting in some of the lands in Alaska that the federal government has tied up. Shallow water drilling, too, is there on the horizon. It's the political will that is missing in this whole scenario, why it is that we have shooed off these opportunities from safer places to drill, and now we're looking at a mile underwater, out in the middle of nowhere, unprecedented problem that we're facing, and no way to stop this leak.
Governor, political will, very interesting you bring that up. My curiosity is whether or not the Obama administration will use this disaster to change its drilling policy. Recall a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month and a half ago, he decided to allow some more offshore wells, some acres, to be drilled. Is this his opportunity or their opportunity to change their mind on that?
Yeah, it's really pathetic that that's what we have to look forward to. Not only the moratorium that Obama hit the Gulf states with, saying that we weren't going to allow the offshore, and then fighting the courts when the courts even said, no, you got to allow the drilling to continue, and they're still fighting that. But it's like Rahm Emanuel has said, you never let a crisis go to waste. They're capitalizing on this crisis with the spill in the Gulf to say they do not want continued offshore drilling. Well, isn't that convenient? That's a political part of their agenda that they've wanted for who knows how long. And then another thing, Eric, too, keep in mind that next will come the job-killing, burdensome cap and trade, I call it cap and tax legislation, that will also be tabbed on top of this crisis. Another problem that America is going to have to encounter once they hammer us with a cap and tax.
Great point, Governor. We saw Mr. Obama spend the day today in Kansas City at an electric vehicle plant. Trucks, the plant produces electric trucks. Was that the shot? Was that the opening bell of the round of cap and trade? He got health care. He got stimulus. Now, is cap and trade the next agenda item?
That's a great point, Eric, that you're suggesting there is perhaps this is, how the horse is going to get out of the chute, and it's going to be tough to pull this back in. Of course, I look at his visit today to that area as a continuation of that aspect of his agenda to shove down our throats, cap and tax, as he shoved down our throats earlier, Obamacare. And what cap and tax is going to do is adversely impact every segment of our society, of our culture and our economy, because energy, it touches every single thing that we do and that we consume in America. And to have a tax put on energy is going to be extremely, extremely burdensome to our families and our businesses. It's also going to result in the loss of hundreds of thousands of good blue-collar jobs that pay a lot of money and employ a lot of good, hard-working men and women.
Governor, shed some light on this. Is there a light at the end of this tunnel?
Darn right there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and I can see it from my house, and it's called the midterm elections in November, because we need to slow down this agenda of Obama's and Pelosi's and Reid's. The only way to do that is by hiring people who will cast the votes in Congress to slow down this fundamental transformation of America that is putting us on this path towards energy dependence on foreign countries and insolvency with our own economy.
Governor, we're going to thank you very much for joining us. We love having you. Please join us again.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
All right, coming up.